Right, so it is a pretty packed edition of the two-man wall. We're talking to you after the Champions League games. So we know that Liverpool are out, that Man City are in, so on and so forth. Chelsea are purring along nicely. But also we want to talk, principally at the start show, this is Johnny Ward with Adam Russell. We want to talk players on loan and principally Jesse Lingard, the form he's had, and what might happen to Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane has built himself into a bit of a mess at Spurs that he probably can't get out of, or can he? Star Sports has markets on both of these things, Lingard's future, where he's going to end up, and that of Harry Kane. And Adam Russell, I do like when traders come up with stuff like this, because they basically can't go to the exchanges. They have to use their own intuition, their own knowledge, and come up with a market that is effectively impossible to price, and they've done a good job, I think.
Yeah, like you say, one of the informed players in the Premier League is Jesse Lingard. And I think it's a real testament to how important confidence can be for a player.
9 appearances, 8 goals, 3 assists, and you point out Bruno Fernandes, 16 appearances, 6 goals, 4 assists, and one of them obviously isn't at Manchester United at the moment.
Yeah, during the same time period. So that's, since the start of 2021. Since he made his debut for West Ham, nobody scored more Premier League goals than Lingard. But obviously gone from, not getting in the team, not having the confidence of his manager, and not being able to get any minutes, to having a manager back you, start you in the team. He played through the middle at the weekend because obviously Mikel Antonio was out injured, and he's become the real driving force in West Ham's bid for promotion. But I think it shows, and the example that I wanted to draw on was obviously Dele Alli at Tottenham.
As you say, one of them is going to the Euros, one of them isn't even playing.
Yeah, exactly. And they were both in the same position in January, weren't they? Where they weren't getting any game time at their club, and there was options for them to go out on loan, with obviously the Euros in sight. Now, Tottenham chose not to send Dele Alli out on loan. There was rumors that PSG were interested. And United have obviously opted to send Lingard out on loan. And it's a win-win situation for United, because either what has happened is that he plays well, his value goes up, and either you bring him back into the side as a re-energized player, or his value to another club then goes up substantially. So whereas with Dele, they've kept him on the sidelines, like you say, he's going to miss out on a European Championships. He's wasted a year of his career, and he's not going anywhere. And send him out on loan, maybe that wouldn't be the case.
Well, it would have been quite funny if Spurs were any use at the moment and they beat Manchester United last weekend, which would have had Manchester United just 5 points ahead of West Ham, the team that they've obviously loaned Lingard out to, which would have made it a little bit interesting in terms of Manchester United potentially wobbling and giving up their place in the top 4 to West Ham, which probably isn't going to happen now. But West Ham are still very much in contention. Now, Star Sports makes West Ham even money to have Jesse Lingard's club at the end of the summer transfer window. Manchester United 9-4, and then it gets a bit complex. Arsenal 9-2, 8-1 Spurs, 12-1. Bar, your thoughts?
Well, I think obviously West Ham evens makes the most sense given what's going on now, but I do think there may be some other clubs, potentially in England, but maybe elsewhere in Europe. I think Inter Milan are on there. It strikes me as the kind of signing that maybe
16-1.
Maybe it might be another loan for him, because I think with United, is he going to displace Bruno? Is he going to displace Pogba? Is he going to displace Rashford? And those are the guys he's kind of in direct competition with. For me, maybe not. And to be honest, if you were United, maybe you think, okay, maybe it's time, we need to move forward, rather than, okay, we've tried Lingard, he had a good few years. He's maybe not quite up to the level that we need, and we'll have a look elsewhere. But equally, maybe they look at him as a backup option to those players that we mentioned. But yeah, I think I would lean towards West Ham, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at maybe an Inter Milan at 12s, because it seems like the sort of signing that they could make.
So Manchester United are 9-4 in that market, and they're 9-4 in what market?
They are 9-4 to sign Harry Kane.
This one intrigues me, because Harry Kane got a good, very good, whatever you want to call it, contract. Spurs, he's been a vital player for them. No doubt he's one of the top strikers in the world, if you ask me.
Contract, though? He signed a 6-year deal. 3 years ago.
He signed. He did good contract in terms of the bang he was getting for his buck into his bank every week. The problem, as you mentioned, 6 years. So he's locked into a situation. Spurs, to my mind, probably need to get rid of Mourinho, which they obviously will at some stage. They might then grow into the potential that they have in that wonderful stadium in a wonderful capital city. A team that, was in the cusp of winning Champions League in recent years, but is probably going nowhere at the moment. Maybe it'll work out for Kane or Adam Russell. Will he say, I'm going to dig my heels in, play pretty crap unless you let me go?
I just don't think I don't see any suitors for Harry Kane. There's only, as there is with a lot of these big players, there's only 5 or 6 clubs really that could even consider making a bid for him. And if we go,
a lot of clubs are basically in the red massively at the moment because of the pandemic.
Yeah, especially you think of teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid are obviously paying off various stadium bits in their end. Obviously, then that leaves you with the
4-1 Man City.
Yeah, and obviously we know that Aguero's leaving, and it makes sense that City would look for a new number 9. But I think a big one on where Harry Kane's future lies will depend on what happens with Erling Haaland. Obviously, he seems to be at his age, at 20 years old, as opposed to, I think Kane's 27 or 28.
I think he's 28 or 29, isn't he?
Okay,
check there.
So,
yeah.
And obviously, if you were looking for a long-term number 9 prospect, and
28 this summer. Sorry.
Yeah, so you're going to spend 200 million on a centre forward. Are you going to buy one who's 29 this summer, or are you going to buy one who's 20 and is already proven it at the top level? So I think City might look at Haaland. I think United might look at Haaland. I think depending on what happens with him will have a big impact on Kane. But yeah, for me, I think he probably ends up staying at Tottenham. I think the 6-year contract hasn't helped himself. There's no real onus on Tottenham to sell. And like I say, there's not that many suitors that are going to pay £200 million probably.
Yeah, no, at the same time, I wouldn't mind being Harry Kane. He obviously is going to be a mainstay in the England team going forward. He's at the prime of his career. He's playing for Spurs. He's on a lot of money. And I think Mourinho will be gone by this time next year anyway, which will mean maybe at that stage, Spurs be back in their stadium with fans, that life might be good again. But at the moment, they're obviously, struggling to finish anywhere near the top 4, and Harry Kane may leave. Have a look at that market. Have a look at the Lingard market. Fascinating stuff, as I say. The traders have a lot of work to do to come up with something like that and not get their asses spanked. And so far, it looks like they haven't. But obviously, in a market like that, when something happens, you usually take note. I took note of the Champions League last night. I wasn't impressed by Real Madrid, I have to say. I tipped them up last week to beat Liverpool, which they could have done. But to be fair to Liverpool, they probably should have been at least 1-0 up at half time. Let's look at the outright market. Just before that, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like you say, Real Madrid weren't particularly impressive, but equally they did their work in the first leg and they played for the result that they knew that they needed. So in some respects, fair play. It's obviously not like that kind of pragmatic approach isn't something that you would necessarily associate with Real Madrid. So it's almost quite refreshing to see a Real Madrid side, approach the game in, with two banks of 5, as it were, and make the opposition break them down. And Liverpool had their chances. And I think, like you say, if they take those first half chances, it's a very different game. But
I read that Mark Lawrence was saying it sounds daft, but I think he's kind of right in the sense that this might work out better for Liverpool in the long term. They weren't going to win the Champions League the way they're playing, and they can now focus solely on finishing in the top 4 and having their players back next season, which now at the moment we're looking at Man City fight for definitely the most likely winners to me. This is where I'd probably disagree with the market. PSG are 3s, Real Madrid are 7-2. I'd struggle to see Real Madrid winning this, beating the 2 teams that they have to. Obviously, Chelsea were 4-1.
I think that for me, I disagree in the sense I think that Chelsea game is a coin toss. I think both of them are sides that maybe wouldn't have expected to make the semi-finals this year and are kind of in transition and sort of trying to build something. Obviously, Chelsea under Tuchel, we know that they won't concede many goals. We saw Madrid last night, how they can also set up in a way that limits what the opposition can do. So it could be a very tense game. And it's, like I say, it's a coin toss. And if Madrid find their way into a Champions League semi-final, again, it's a one-off game. They might get a penalty after 5 minutes. Someone gets a red card. Anything can happen in those one-off games. So I definitely wouldn't. And that experience of the Madrid squad, the likes of Modric, Benzema, Toni Kroos, Ramos, Varane, all those guys that have been there, done it, worn the t-shirts, sold the t-shirts, like most of them have won 3 or 4 Champions Leagues apiece. So that experience could play into their hands a lot compared to what is quite a young Chelsea team.
And how appropriate it is that the two one of whom will almost certainly be the top goal scorer, Erling Haaland 8-11, Mbappe 6-5, are the two players that basically every club in Europe wants right now, the future of the game, particularly Haaland.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the PSG game to hear them kind of talking about how important this season is to PSG in terms of Mbappe and Neymar both only got 1 season left to run on their current deals after this season. So if they do win the Champions League, it might be a case Mbappe and Neymar decide that, PSG is the project they still want to be involved in, or, maybe it goes the other way. And, if they aren't successful in the Champions League, it might be, okay, maybe I have to, in Mbappe's case in particular, maybe I need to move on if I'm going to win the Champions League elsewhere. So, yeah, very interesting. And I think, potentially this summer could be Haaland is probably going to be the main transfer story of the summer, isn't it? So
it will, and we have nearly identical prices in the FA Cup semis just before we wrap up the show today. Man City, you've been tipping them up for the quadruple, I think at 9-1 on Star Sports earlier this year. Not that long ago, actually. It looks a lovely value now because they've obviously won the league and they're 5-4 to win the Champions League. This one might be a bit stickier. They're 17-20 to beat obviously an informed Chelsea team. Leicester 17-20 to beat Southampton.
Yeah, the reason I think Man City for this is, again, it's one of those one-off games, so anything can kind of happen, and Chelsea are definitely in it. But I do think that City have got a bigger squad to cope with the turnaround of playing 2 big games in the space of 4 or 5 days. Obviously, they'll be able to bring in the likes of Sterling and Gundogan and everyone, and they'll be able to rotate a little bit more than potentially Chelsea were. So I think that might give them the edge. And yeah, I think the quadruple it's edging towards inevitable for me. Like the League Cup, I think they'll beat Spurs in the League Cup final. The FA Cup is they're obviously the favourites, and now the semi-final of the Champions League, they're obviously favourites there as well. So to me, yeah, it's obviously be some achievement, but I think they've got every chance. I think they've got a really strong chance.
Everton aren't in the best of form, it's fair to say. I still don't really get why they're 9-4 against Spurs. And, fair enough, there's the doubt about home advantage and all that. But I get the impression Spurs isn't a happy dressing room per se. Everton still kind of battling on there for an improbable Champions League spot. This would be a massive, massive victory were they to do it. This is an 8 o'clock kickoff on Friday.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's a bit of a 6-pointer for both of these clubs. You feel like if whoever loses this one, maybe that's their European charge, especially in Everton's case, it's maybe their European charge over with. Like you say about Mourinho, the dressing room. I always feel like Mourinho's dressing rooms are unhappy places. He doesn't really strike me as someone who gets the players on side. And
whereas Ancelotti is this beautiful Italian. He's been in the game. He's in his 60s now. He's been in the game for as long as we can remember. And he's gotten Everton to, play very well this season, and they've claimed some notable scalps. But their form at home, for whatever reason, is poor. I still think there should not be 9-4 because I would not trust this Spurs team at all.
But the only thing I'd say about Everton is I've seen them get to this position before, 9th, 8th, maybe pushing a European spot, but they never seem to take that next step. And I think that's what Ancelotti needs to do. Maybe not this season, maybe it's next season. They need to take that next step, and they need to finish 3rd or 4th, and they need to make a bit more of a statement. It always feels like Everton will fall off in the end. And so it's proven at the minute their home form has kind of let down their charge towards Europe. They've won just 1 of the last 8 at Goodison in the Premier League, and have won none of the last 4 home and away in the league. So although, like you say, difficult to trust this Tottenham side, I do think that Spurs will go there and have a bit more quality. I think they'll maybe edge it. Spurs 5-4 to win, Everton 2-1. Like I said, I take Spurs at 5-4. I also thought Spurs to win, maybe both teams to score. Son and Richarlison score anytime at 22-1. The logic behind that being they've averaged over 5 goals per game in the last 5 meetings between these sides, including a a 3-2, sorry, a 5-4, wasn't it, in the FA Cup earlier in the season? So potentially there could be goals. So yeah, both teams score. Son and Richarlison, Spurs to win 22-1 with Star Sports.
That's your lot for the week.
Cool. Have a good one, Johnny. Good luck to the punters.
But before we go, St. Patrick's Athletic 5-4 in the draw no bet market to beat Dundalk on Friday evening.
I thought you were going to go through the trader challenge before you get shouted at by the guys at Star again.
I will go through the trader challenge, but I have to firstly mention it's actually Saturday evening. But St. Patrick's Athletic 5-4 draw no bet against Dundalk. Dundalk 1 point so far, 4-1 in the halftime full-time market. I need say no more. I tipped them up against Derry last week, but I think this is even a stronger bet at the prices. Adam, the trader challenge.
So again, we've got 6 games again this week. Basically, you're up against our 2 traders. All you've got to do is submit your selections for the 6 games this weekend. Everyone who beats the traders will win a £10 free bet.
It's as easy as that.
The best selection, if you get 6 out of 6, 5 out of 6, whatever, whoever's the best selection will win a £500 free bet.
Before we wrap up Bolton, who have we the weekend?
I actually don't know who we've got on the weekend. You've put me on the spot there. What I do know is we're now 4 points clear of Morecambe in the relegation zone, in the promotion spot.
Yeah, Morecambe just had to be followed by relegation zone because that's Morecambe. They are having an unbelievable season.
Yeah, they're actually the dark horses at the minute. They're in form. They're scoring goals. Bolton have got Grimsby away.
Ever been to Grimsby?
I've never been to Grimsby. I know that they're down near the bottom, so hopefully it should be another 3 points for us and 1 step closer to League One next season.
Thank you very much for listening. We hope we give you some sort of indication of why those markets have those prices on Lingard and Kane. Obviously, I'm strong on St. Patrick's Athletic, and I think Everton could do the job against Spurs. Adam would slightly disagree, but that's why we're here. Talk to you next week.